education, and James's and my added historical and family insights. But for me, and for our entire family, this was not just a book project. It was an opportunity to tell the full and true story of our beloved Arthur Briggs at long last. My dad was a gentleman and a modest man who had no tolerance for unfairness and wickedness. As a religious man, he prayed every day, but he was open-minded in accepting people and their belief systems. When I was 2 years old, after nearly a half-century of nonstop touring and performing, he retired in order to take care of me. My mom, 34 years his junior, was in the early years of her working career, so it was my dad who got my day started and who picked me up from school in the afternoons. Unlike my classmates, who were taken straight home after school, my dad and I would normally stop at the baker's for cakes and hot chocolate before heading home. When we reached home, not only did my dad help me with my homework, he also cooked for me and played with me. He even knew all of my dolls by name. My dad was the fulfillment of my mom's life. He was a husband, somewhat of a father, and especially a friend to her, despite, and perhaps in some ways because of their significant difference in age. They were inseparable. When he passed away, she was never the same. My relationship with my dad was always loving, caring, and respectful, from my earliest childhood memories to my still vivid adulthood memories with him. I shall always remember our closeness together, our honesty with each other. I was full of admiration for him as a father, as a human being, as a musician, and as a man. That love, now extending and manifesting itself in the love I share with my husband, Denis, and our son, Stanley Arthur, remains at the core of my being. Today, as a school teacher, I work 5 kilometers from the Nazi detention center, in which my dad was held for nearly 4 years. I sometimes try to imagine what it took for him, after such a prominent musical career, to withstand the horrors of detention, to play Beethoven for the Nazis who hated jazz, and to play jazz for his fellow detainees, all while he was a prisoner of those who thought him inferior because of his skin. How did he emerge from years of wicked detention, never knowing if each day would be his last? How did he emerge from that hell with his mind, heart, and spirit so intact that he spent the next several decades as a respected professor of music, a devoted husband, and a loving father? When your journey through this book is complete, I hope you will have come to understand the answers to these questions, and to appreciate the man who was a giant in my eyes, the man who was indeed a giant of jazz music, my father, Arthur Briggs. Part 1. How shall we sing the Lord's song in a strange land? Psalm 137. 1. Winter, 1942. There were teeth in the soup again. Horse teeth. It was repulsive even to a starving man, and Arthur Briggs was a starving man. Hunger was a song stuck in his head as he shivered in a filthy hut, lice crawling on his skin. Evenings were once filled with jazz and risque dancing, with gaiety and tumbling laughter, with champagne and fine cuisine. Now it was winter. He was hungry, and there were teeth in the soup again. Briggs was trapped in Stalag 220, a Nazi prison for British citizens and other enemies of the Third Reich. 6 miles south was Paris, where he had made his reputation as the greatest jazz trumpeter in Europe, earning the nickname the Louis Armstrong of France. But isolated here in this camp, he might as well have been on the moon. He could have fled the Nazis. He had family in Harlem, and his reputation as the greatest trumpeter in Europe was known in America. African-American newspapers had followed his every move for years, including his work with Coleman Hawkins.